I'm James Swanwick. This is the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn to live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. Welcome to the show. I am James Swanwick. Today we're going to be talking about how to quit vices, whether it be alcohol or weed, maybe love addiction. We'll be talking about fasting and some weight loss secrets. Should we be counting calories? Should we be getting on a bicycle for 20 minutes at high intensity every morning if we want to drop weight? We'll be talking about how to recover from cancer. Our guest today had a cancer diagnosis 10 years ago at the age of 35. He's now 45 as we're recording this. We're going to learn a little bit about how he faced cancer 10 years ago and how he fought back from that and how he views that today. Conscious congruency. What does that mean? We're going to dig into that. How do you create a community of really good people? People who are health conscious, who are conscious communicators, who are supporting each other. Today's guest is an expert at that. He lives in Medellin, Colombia, and he's really fostered a really terrific community of high energy, high vibration, good people who get together and have weekly breakfasts to support each other. We're going to learn how to do that, how to create a great network of good people. And today's guest has been a friend of mine for almost 10 years. We were actually in a business mastermind together starting in about 2013. And here we are today sitting in Medellin, Colombia, about to have a conversation. So with that, Mike Carels, 45 from Vancouver, Canada. Welcome, Mike. Great to have you here.
It's nice to be here, James. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think of you as like good energy, good people. Is that something that you're strategically trying to implement, or do you think it comes from good upbringing or good friends or good morals? Is this a new thing that you seem to be embodying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, energy is one of the things where I think we have that choice on what energy we want to bring forward. And I'm just a big proponent of that energy, that optimism, looking on the bright side of things and doing my best to elevate the energy. So energy, I think, is definitely a big component. And I do my best to definitely keep on track.
Has it always been that way, or was there a time in your life when you maybe weren't as a positive outlook kind of guy as you seem to be now?
I think it's always been that way. I'm just naturally optimistic. I like looking on the bright side of things. I think we have that choice about how to look at things. And I've always had that notion of questioning how I'm looking at things, looking at the positive, looking at the angle that serves me. And so I think that's something I've really been able to do, is take a step back and choose how I'm looking at things. And as a result, it tends to be the optimistic sort of aspect.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a process or processes to question everything, to learn, and then to go and create a strategy and implement it. And certainly I've seen that because I follow you on Instagram and I see you getting up at, what time do you wake up in the mornings now?
Now it's 4:45, just like clockwork. I'm up and I need to be moving. You know, I'm up, I go right down to the bike, doing an intense sweat workout, and that for me is working amazingly well. I love just waking up. I love pushing that envelope and just being up at the crack of dawn when not many people are up, doing something productive, pushing myself. And, you know, I definitely changed from being a night owl. And I was always told, you're never going to be an early morning person and always going to be a night person. And I was stuck in bed and I love sleeping in. But at a certain point, I just realized, I was like, you know what, this is not who I want to be. And I switched that from being a night person to a morning person. And since that time, I've always loved waking up early, and I'm just a super competitive person. I need to be, for me, the mornings are a time to wake up and take charge and really be a leader in life. And whether it's my competitive juices, whatever it is, I just love waking up in the morning and going at it. So, 4:45.
4:45. That seems a little intense for me personally. Yeah. I mean, I have experimented with it, and I was like, I don't think I really want to do this long term. Yeah. There's no right or wrong, right? It's just like what feels right for you in that phase of life.
Absolutely. I think you have to really be self-aware on what serves you. And for me, I just realized my nights, as much as I love some aspects of the night, I just realized that's a lot of wasted time that I have. So why not cut the fat on the nights, move it to the mornings, get up early, and just be productive and hit that day running. And after a while, I just started to change my neuroassociations with enjoying the nights to enjoying the mornings. And so I think everyone's different. For me, I just love being competitive. I love waking up, and I love, getting rid of that wasted time at night, changing it to the morning, and that sets the tone for the whole day. And yeah, I definitely love the mornings.
There is a consequence, though. You don't get to have as many dinners with me at nighttime, right? Because you're always in bed asleep. Like, we live in the same city here in Medellin, Colombia, and sometimes I've said to Mike, "Hey, Mike, we're going to have an early dinner at like 7." And he's like, "Bro, that's like too late for me. I'm already in bed at that time."
Yeah, there's definitely some sacrifices you have to make. Some of the things at night, you have to cut that out. And I just personally realized that's a lot of time that was not utilized to my best capacity. Sometimes there are some social events and that you have to make those decisions whether you're going to go out or not. So yeah, it's definitely challenging sometimes, but overall, I love just getting to bed early, waking up early, going at it, and just being in charge and having that lead. It's just a feeling of the whole world waking up. You got nature waking up, the light, the suns, everything is just, it's an incredible time. So I think for me, cutting out alcohol, cutting out the vices, that was also a really big aspect of let's just remove that and let's focus on the morning. Boom. And I just, love the mornings now.
So let's go back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you're from Vancouver and Canada. You've got some brothers and stepbrothers and sisters. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely raised in Vancouver, Canada, and specifically in West Vancouver is a more well-off area in Vancouver. The thing of how I was raised was I wasn't spoiled. My parents really realized that it wasn't, we don't want to spoil you, we'll have you in this nice area, but it was always the kind of, here's a taste of this nice stuff. And, it's one of the wealthiest areas in Canada. So I was exposed to all this, but at the same time, my dad was like, hey, he knew those boundaries, right? So he was a coach at all my sports, and he was always there. But he gave me a taste of all of that. But he knew, he's like, I'm not going to spoil you. So I think that's also what really kind of created this drive within me, and I just had this sort of like things were right there, and it's just he was very good at not giving everything that I wanted, but that's one of the things that I remembered was not spoiling me and just having that drive. Another big thing, I mean, sports was a huge thing for me growing up. So I played a lot of the sports, and I was usually the captain on the teams, and he was a coach, and he was there every practice, every game. He was a guy yelling from the sidelines and just pushing us harder and harder. And I just remember, that just sports and that competitiveness, I just love that aspect. So definitely had a good upbringing. It wasn't a spoiled upbringing, but it was very fun, very challenging, had all this sports going on, a lot of friends. And from there, I just had this idea. I just wanted to have adventure. I wanted to explore, right? So after school, traveled all throughout there, and that's kind of when I went to all different countries and traveled and did all that kind of stuff. So definitely a great upbringing, and that's what I think helped with that drive that I still have to this day.
When you said you went traveling, you mean you went traveling as a young backpacker overseas in your 20s, or you were a little bit more mature when you went traveling?
A little bit more mature. So I knew I wanted to travel, but I didn't want to just be a backpacker and live at hostels and that kind of stuff. So I went to Toronto, went across Canada, and got a corporate job and really got out of my surroundings. But then also, I wanted to advance my career, wanted to advance that. And so I got the taste of adventure, of new areas, but also developing myself and going to new areas and that kind of stuff. And So yeah, it was not so much the backpacking style. It was more like, let's advance ourselves, but also explore at the same time.
What profession were you in?
So I was working at TELUS, who is a wireless company, one of Canada's largest wireless providers, a telecommunications company, and I was on the sales team, corporate sales team.
Oh, okay. And so did you learn the act of persuasion and influence and sales when you were in that position?
Absolutely. That's one of the things. When I first got there, I remember I was like, okay, I want to know the top salespeople across the country, and I want to interview them, and I want to know what are they doing that's different than everyone else. And at the time, management was like, that's bizarre. Like, why do you want to know that? And so I focused, and I knew who I wanted to model, and so I got into the sales environment and knew no one in Toronto. Absolutely, I think I had a few relatives, but got into sales and I just had that hunger. I wanted to get out there. I wanted to do stuff. And I think that was such a blessing because I got into sales and practiced the art of cold calling, prospecting, negotiating, all that kind of stuff. And I think sales is an element to that foundation that I've kept since then. So,
do you remember the first sale that you ever made? I mean, I remember the first phone sale I made, and I made an offer to this woman who was talking to me on the phone, and I said, "Are you in?" And she said, "Yes." And then I had been trained beforehand to say, "Okay, is it Visa or MasterCard?" Right? To get the credit card. Yeah. And she said, "Oh, it's a Visa." And I started going, "Oh my God, she's going to give me her credit card. This is incredible." Yeah. And I was writing it down and she said, "Oh, congratulations. This is amazing." I was selling a coaching program to her. It was someone else's coaching program. But I was like, training to be a salesperson. I remember she gave me the credit card and I processed it and the program was sent to her automatically and she was thrilled on the phone. She got it in real time. And I hung up the phone and I was like high-fiving myself going, "Oh my God, I just took someone's credit card and made a sale." I mean, I very distinctly remember that. Do you have a similar story or experience?
I do. I mean, not from doing the corporate sales, but when I struck out from corporate and started my own business, I remember I went to this guy's house. I think he was a plumber or something at the time. I was doing local marketing. I realized, okay, I can help these guys with their marketing. And I remember he handed this check to me. He's like, "Okay, I don't know who you are." I think he's like, "I don't even know if you have a bank account or what's going on, but there's something about you I just trust." And he handed this check. And then I was ecstatic and I was like, okay, now what the hell do I do? I've got this check and now I have to figure out like exactly how to serve him. But that was a very monumental moment. I was just like, the words that he said were very encouraging and it was just that faith. And then from there, things just kind of rolled from there. So yeah, I was just like, what do I do with this check? I don't even know. But, step by step, figured it out from there.
You said when you broke out from the corporate world, so how long did you stay in that position or in the corporate world before you ventured into trying your own business? How old were you? What were the circumstances around that?
Yeah, I think I stayed about 5 years in Toronto, and I managed to get top 10% in the country. And
for what? As a salesperson?
As a salesperson across the whole company, across the country. So it was phenomenal. I remember actually picking up this book. I think it was called How to Raise Yourself from Failure to Success in Selling. I forget the author, but what an incredible book. One of the chapters was about enthusiasm. And I just remember walking to the office the next day, so enthusiastic, just talking. And, it was like, it wasn't a real enthusiasm, but I just started incorporating this book, and that's when I really implemented everything and skyrocketed up, and definitely had a lot of success with that and enjoyed that. Then they brought us down to a more centralized downtown office, so they wanted to focus the top reps down there and start to get in the corporate environment more. And so that was about 5 years, I think 5-6 years in total. Yeah.
So how did you become in the top? How did you get to be in the top 10% of performers in that company? Like, what actions did you take or not take that you think put you in that top 10%? Hi, this is James Swanwick, and we're taking applications for our 90-day and 365-day stop drinking programs. Clients are mostly executives, entrepreneurs, and investors who have tried unsuccessfully and repeatedly to stop drinking, but remain stuck in a frustrating cycle of stop, start, stop, start. Our programs are not AA, which has a reported 7% success rate. Our programs are not rehab, which has a reported 6% success rate. Our 90-day and 1-year programs involve a safe, fun, virtual community of high achievers with a process that boasts a scientifically proven 98% success rate of clients reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free. That's according to the University of Washington. We use the latest neuroscience and personal development processes to help rewire clients' brains around alcohol and minimize its importance in their lives. We will show you how to powerfully socialize with friends, family, and colleagues, what to say and how to say it so people don't mistakenly think you're an alcoholic or have a problem, and how to eliminate the temptation of returning to constant drinking so you break the stop-start cycle. To ensure client success, Project 90 can only accept 24 new clients each month. Some of those happy clients include John Keltner from California, who said, "I've lost 10 pounds." Susie Vaughn, a real estate broker in Tennessee, who said, "I've generated 20% more leads." Jessica Gaines from Kentucky, who says, "I've now got joy, focus, presence, and clarity." And Joe Worley from Michigan, who says, "My wife has the real Joe back." If you're an executive, entrepreneur, investor, real estate professional, attorney, doctor, and you're sick of the stop-start cycle and the damaging effects alcohol has on your health, happiness, and family, and you're ready to regain confidence, become more present with your spouse and children, reduce stress, anxiety, and irritability, sleep better, increase focus and productivity, and feel better quickly, you're invited to apply to become one of our 24 monthly Project 90 clients. Applicants can apply for an introductory interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. There's also a link in this episode's show notes. That's alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. Application interviews are limited and are conducted on a first-come, first-served basis. Okay, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things was that modeling. You know, I went in, I was like, who are the top people? And my manager was this great person that we just clicked, and she was this mentor to me as well. So she would advise me, let me know everything that's going on. And I think that was one of the biggest things was let's cut through the clutter. Like, I want to focus, I want to lead, I want to be one of the top people here, and let's model who's actually one of the top. So I specifically remember that. And then I think it was just a matter of just consistently being hungry and surrounding myself with those people and, just focusing. Yeah.
You've mentioned the word modeling a few times, and I sense that you still are doing that to this day, right? Because you often talk about Tony Robbins. You're also you're often talking about books that you've read and people that you admire and concepts that they've presented.
Yeah.
How impactful has this idea of modeling people been? Well, first of all, like, how would you define the word modeling? Like, what do you think that means? What is that process or that concept?
Yeah, I think it's looking at someone who is a few steps in advance. Like, where do you want to go, and model someone who's there already and really embody their characteristics, learn from what they're doing. And so I think that's something I was doing before and something I continue doing as well. I think naturally I just like to look at who are these leaders, who's the best. And for me, I cannot stand lazy, mediocrity, average. Those sort of words to me just do not resonate. So I cannot stand being around sort of the average. And so I've always just gravitated to who is excelling, who's outstanding, who can I model from. And I've just gravitated and formed relationships with those people. And I think that's also really helped with my energy and aura and that. So, yeah.
You know, there's a couple of famous people who've said something about this. Charlie Munger, who died actually in December of 2023, recently, very recently. Wow. Charlie Munger was the business partner of Warren Buffett and, owned Berkshire Hathaway, one of the smartest business minds that I've ever come across. Mm-hmm. And he said, you can learn from mistakes, but it's better to you can learn from your mistakes, but it's better to learn from somebody else's mistakes. And the idea behind that was, cut down the process of fail and try again and fail and try again. It's like, look at someone else's failures and then don't do that, and model that. And then the other quote that comes to mind is Picasso, right? The great artist. And he said, good artists copy and great artists steal. And, what he was saying is that all art is some kind of copying someone else's art form, or being inspired by it enough and taking elements of that and then making it your own. So it seems to me like, you go to Tony Robbins, you read these books, you're always taking a little bit of each of these people and then implementing it into your daily life. That's how it seems to me. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say that's correct. I love learning. I love growth, and I'm always absorbing knowledge. And so, yeah, I think success leaves clues, and it's looking at those people where you can learn from, absorbing and really learning as much as you can. And I'm just a sponge. I need to be learning, and I think that coincides with being competitive. Like, I'm always looking for the edge. I'm always, even if I lose, even if there's a setback, I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back harder. I'm going to learn something, and there's going to be something that I'm going to implement. And when I come back, it's not going to be good on the other end. And so I think that's just a thirst to knowledge, to growing, to contributing. And so, yeah.
Let's fast forward to 2013 when you were diagnosed with colon cancer. This is a topic I'm somewhat familiar with. My mother had colon cancer and she beat it. And thankfully she's still thriving today. She's 79 years old, but she talks about it. And I remember being a kid, I was probably 10 or 11, being somewhat aware of what was going on. Maybe not the full significance, but I remember her being in hospital, and I don't think I was fully aware that it was a life or death situation, which is what it was. I learned that in later life. I thought it was just mummy was unwell and she was in the hospital and we're going to go and visit her. So I'm somewhat familiar with it, but tell me a little bit about the circumstances around that diagnosis. Where were you in life, in the year or so leading up to that? How did you learn that you had colon cancer, and what happened?
So there are a few events leading up to that. I remember going on a hike in Vancouver with a few friends, and this was a pretty steep hike, but I realized, I was like, wow, I am just out of breath. And then we would rest, and within moments, I'm out of breath again. And meanwhile, everyone else is walking and going up. And I was just like, damn, I'm out of shape. Like, this is I definitely got to get back into shape. And so there was that event. There was also, I remember going up a flight of stairs right in Vancouver, and just after the subway, and I was out of breath. I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I've never felt that depletion before, right? And so that was one of the signs of, like, I'm getting tired really fast, and I don't know what's up, but either I'm really out of shape or something else is up. I think I just felt I was really out of shape. And so there's those events, but then there's also, I remember the pain in the stomach that I would get. So after I would eat food, it would randomly be this jarring pain that was just in my stomach. And I was just like this, a few seconds, but it was just this electrifying pain that I was just like, it was something. And I was like, that's got to be ulcers. That's got to be something. I can take a pill. I can do this. And that went on for a little while, and it was just kind of random when I would feel these pains. But then eventually, I flew down and did a trip down to South America, did all that. And I remember towards the end of that trip, my belt size was like, it went down like a full belt size, even more. And I remember, because when you drop a belt size, that's a noticeable change in your life. And I'm like, damn, I'm getting thin. And then I went back to Vancouver and we went for dinner, and my stepmom was like, you should just get checked out. Just go to the clinic. Cause I remember we had a bunch of sushi and I was like, no, I don't want to eat this cause I'm going to experience this pain. And they're like, that's crazy. Just get checked out. And so the next day I got checked out, and the doctor immediately could feel something in my stomach. It wasn't even like a hesitation. It was just like, something's on your stomach. and you gotta go get your blood test, like go right away and do all this stuff and go see this clinic. And I remember the look that I saw on his face, just it was this look of like shock, this look of like concern. And when I saw that on the doctor's face, I was like, that was something different, you know. And I went to get these blood checks, and a few days passed, and the office called me. They're like, you got to get in here right now. And I was just like, wow, I've never sort of heard that sort of urgency before on a phone. And I went into the clinic, and they're basically telling me these results on my blood is like way off. And the reason why I ran out of breath, because I think I had no white blood cells. I was just so depleted. So I was not holding that oxygen, right? So any cardiovascular work, I was just depleted. And so they said, you know what, you got to go to the ER room in the hospital like right now. And at that moment, I was just like, wow, like something is serious. And I think they said like, call like your closest family members, call one person, but like go there like right now. And I remember standing on the corner of that street, because the hospital was only a few blocks away. And I just couldn't even talk. Like I was just in that shock of like something serious is up. And I was trying to talk to someone, but I was like swallowing. I was just in shock, that terror. And long story short, like going to a hospital, they did all the checks, and that's when they said, yeah, you have colon cancer. And that's when it just, you know, it hit me. But at the same time, I realized, I was like, you know what, that's might be the diagnosis, but that's not what I'm accepting. And I remember I was like, I'm going to beat this no matter what. All right. So I made that mental decision. And I think the mindset that I had, so there's two circumstances. One was like at that moment, I realized that might be now, but I'm going to change that in the future. I'm going to take a whole different direction. And then I also remember being in the hotel or in the hospital room. There's 4 beds, 3 other people, and it was this constant complaining, constant, you know, victim mindset, constant like, why me, why this, and I just remember at that time I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna either choose the victim route or I can choose the creator route. And I just remember I was like, wow, that's powerful. Like these people are, it's all victim mindset. Like why me? And
you're talking about the other patients, yeah?
Yeah, the other patients, right, in the hospital room. And just at that moment, it was just like, I'm going to be a creator. I'm going to use this experience as something to create in the future. And this is going to be beyond me. This is now no longer me. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to serve more people. And that's when I shifted from like, why me? Why this happen? You know, I was very young to have colon cancer, and
35 at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it totally, I had no idea what colon cancer was, you know, and it hit me, but I made that decision of like, boom, we're going to totally do something different. And I remember putting in the headphones, and Deepak Chopra had a meditation series, maybe a 7-day meditation. I was just like, I'm blocking everything else out. I'm just going full in, you know, I'm like, I'm getting really focused. The first book I bought was Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Body. I was just like, I gotta like forget like, you know, not understanding fitness and health. And there was just so much information. Everyone's, you know, trying to say this and that. I said, I got to take responsibility here. And that was the first book that I bought. And I fell in love with the craft of, you know, how to cut things, just all the fundamentals, the different food, the different concepts. And that I think is what really got me going on my health kick. And I said, you know what, instead of ignoring and thinking this is overwhelming, all this health stuff, I'm going to assess it all. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm going to master this area. So
I want to ask you about that in a second, but just to go back one step, what do you think it is about your personality, or what possibly happened in your childhood that had you be the 1 out of 4 people, like who said, I'm going to turn this into something good and not be the 3 out of 4 people who were complaining and who were in victimhood. Like, I get that you weren't in victimhood, but what was it? Was it something that your father taught you? Was it something that you learned in the playground when you were a boy? Like, what was it that made you think like that when most people don't?
It was a book that I read. I forget the book. It was some sort of mindset book, and just that concept stood out. At the time, I was like, it was victim or creator. I've never heard that model before, victim or creator. Like, ooh, creator, love that. And I think I'm naturally creative, and I think I tapped into that. So, yeah, I learned it from a book. And
you don't remember the book?
I don't remember the book. I have to maybe find out and source that out. But that concept just I think stood with me the whole time. So
wow. It's amazing. Isn't it funny how just one seemingly innocuous thing can have such a profound impact on a human's life?
Absolutely. And it's when things happen, we have that choice on how we want to look at things. So I think that's what really shaped my mindset as well, on like, hey, that's happening, but how do you want to think about it? Is it victim or creator? And it was so basic that I love that concept. Yeah.
So you took the mindset of creator, and you just referenced that you started to take responsibility for educating yourself about colon cancer and about health. Yeah. So what happened from there? What were the actions that you took or didn't take from the moment of being in that hospital room, being diagnosed with colon cancer?
I mean, that's really what kickstarted my whole health journey. And I just read book after book after book, and I was just like, I need to be on top of this. I want to learn from the best resources, best books, and it was my values completely shifted at that point. It was just like, okay, health is now number one. Like, and I specifically remember, it's like being in the hospital. There's one moment actually in the hospital, and I was going in for surgery. Right in the hospital, in the bed, right, going in, and the nurse is like, "How you feeling?" And I was like, "How do I answer that?" But I said, "Like I am in heaven." And I was like, "Okay, wait a second." Like, I think the nurse said, "No, you're not there. You're not there." And I was like, wow, that was like on the cusp, because I think she was talking about the stats of surgery not going well and this, and I was just like, oh, boom, let's get out of that sort of visualization. Let's come back. And so that was one of those moments where it was just like, okay, this is either a life or death situation. There's these circumstances, like it was a pretty extensive surgery, and that was a wake-up call, definitely. Another moment I remember as well is being at I think we went to a hockey game at the time, and there's a stadium, 20,000 people all throughout. And this was between the time I was diagnosed and I had the surgery. So I remember being in that stadium, there's 20,000 people, and I was just thinking, I was like, damn, like, this could be, like, I'm the only one with cancer that could be terminal. My life could be over. Here's all these people enjoying the game, and my life just sort of flashed right there. And it was just like a surreal moment of like, wow, this could be one of the last games I go to, and it was a very, very awakening moment, right? So. So yeah, there's definitely different moments going through that really hit home. Those a few of them.
Mm. Yeah. You had the surgery. It was a success.
Surgery was a success.
What did they actually do?
So they took a third of my colon out.
Just moved. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
They took a third of my colon out, and it was a successful surgery. I remember going back to see the doctor, and the doctor was like, "Hey, this is like very rare. I get to say this, but like you were on stage 2, right? So just on the verge of stage 3. And the difference there is when it goes stage 3, it spreads to all the lymph nodes. And that's where I would have had chemo, would have had all that. And that's a whole different level, right? So, and I didn't understand the severity of that stage 2 to stage 3. You know, like if I would have waited a little longer to get diagnosed on that, a whole different situation, right? So the doctor was like, very, very rare I get to say this, surgery was successful. We got it all out. It's not in your lymph nodes. It's not spread. And you have like next to zero chance of this coming back as well. So it was an incredible moment. I remember celebrating with my brother. He was there, and we just had a very bonding moment. And I was just like, this is a new life. And now I get to be that creator. I get to make the purpose beyond me, and I get to start living intentionally and really mastering health and making a difference and doing things where I value the time a lot more. So I think in that moment, that was one of the most profound moments of my life, one of the most difficult moments, but it's also now one of the most incredible moments. And from that moment, I've totally changed and become this different person, and values shifted, and doing all this amazing stuff. So I look back on that as just like such a blessing now. So,
what did your mother and father and family and friends say, do or not do at around that time? Was there anything that you noticed about, you know, support or not getting support from anyone in your life at that time?
Yeah, that's one of the things is being in the hospital. I realized that people have busy lives. They were out doing their thing, and I was in the hospital, and I would have all the guests come by and check in, but you really get a sense of who are those very close people that are going out of their way to really visit and be there. And during those times, it's kind of like there's no other goals you have. It's just like, I'm getting healthy, that's it. And you really start to just recognize those people that go out of their way and are there for you. So it really was a good filter to get a sense of who those people were.
Yeah. So you went on this journey then from that moment on, at age 35, until now, where you're consistently learning about health and processes for positive mindset and productivity and things like that, yeah? And some of those things involve fasting, early mornings that we've already spoken about, weight loss. Let's talk about the physical just for a minute, and then we'll move on to the mindset stuff. Mm-hmm. But actually, you were very instrumental in my, let's call it, I wouldn't say weight loss, because I didn't feel like I needed to lose weight. But let's just say just getting a little bit leaner. I was in London in the summer of 2023, and we were exchanging a few voice notes via WhatsApp. And I'd been watching you on Instagram and seeing you get shredded. That's the word that we use these days, right? Get shredded. And by shredded, I mean like you got a six-pack, you've leaned right down, your muscles are kind of bulging. I'm seeing you share Instagram stories of you getting up at 4:45 in the morning and doing push-ups and burpees and all that kind of stuff. And I'm walking the streets of London eating a kebab going, maybe I should follow Mike a little bit more or ask him for a few tips here. And again, I work out a lot. I'm very healthy. My blood tests that I get say that I'm very healthy. I always have, doctors always say I have the blood pressure of a teenager. Like I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had any real big health problems. But I was looking at you and going, man, he's getting shredded here. How do I at least move towards that a little bit? And you were talking about counting calories and maybe downloading the app, MyFitnessPal, and kind of like just tracking what you eat and when you eat it, right? And I did. And I leaned up, like I really, really did. And now I really focus on how many steps I'm taking each day. I try to get at least 10,000, preferably 12,500 steps. And I've now understood and appreciated that some foods have a lot of calories in them, and some foods you don't need to eat with a meal. Like I was eating maybe like a cup of rice with a lot of meals, or a potato. And if I just cut out the rice or the potato and I do that for 7 nights of the week, I can actually be in a calorie deficit and actually lose some weight. So little things like that. One of the other big things that you taught me in one of those voice notes, and you kind of said it like just as a throwaway message, which was, non-fat Greek yogurt. And I'm like, okay, let me play it back. And he goes, non-fat, so zero fat Greek yogurt. So I'm in London, I go to this Waitrose supermarket chain, which is a chain in the supermarket, and I look for zero fat, and I look on the ingredients on the back, not the ingredients, but like the calories, and I'm looking at this like 500 grams of zero fat Greek yogurt, and it's only got 320 something calories and like 30 or 40 grams of protein. I'm like, how do I not know about this? This is the greatest invention in human dietary history. Because I can get 30, 40 grams of protein and only 300 calories, which is not much in the broad scope of life. And so since then, I smash like 400 grams of Greek yogurt every day now. And I know I'm getting my protein and I'm not putting on too many calories. So I'm not sure what my question is. I just went on a bit of a rant there to just describe kind of how you've inspired me. But like, just talk us through what's worked for you in terms of diet in getting lean and energetic.
Yeah, I think for me, what really resonated was not like, so there's macros, but making it simple, like understanding the calories and the protein. So the calories, I found this formula where it was based on what's your goal weight, and it was specific. I think it was 13 times your goal weight. And I remember doing that, and I was like, wow, like into that. I was like, every day I'm waking up, I'm getting more shredded. There's like new abs popping. I feel different. And I just became this different person. And I was just like keeping that up, and as well as the protein. So making sure you get enough proteins in. But it was those two things. I think it was good because it didn't overwhelm me. And for me, it was taking progress photos every single week. So on Saturdays, I would take photos, see what's going on. And that's what really encouraged me to keep up without accountability. Because I was also in a WhatsApp group with some other friends. And so that accountability of making those progress photos, but the calories and the proteins, and seeing the results and pushing it, and I just really stuck to that plan. And over time, it was just seeing these results. It was just something I wanted to continue. So I think simplifying it to a point, because I've worked out for a while, but getting the diet dialed in before I knew what healthy was, but until I started counting the calories and the proteins, then I was just like, wow, this makes sense. And fasting was also a huge thing. And so just keeping the body at a kind of a state of hunger, and, you know, to your point, having that Greek yogurt is one of those things. Even last night, it was like a dessert having Greek yogurt. I pretty much don't have much in my fridge. It's all exactly what I need to eat. But last night there was some Greek yogurt. I was like, damn, let's have some Greek yogurt. It's healthy, protein, and
not many calories.
And not many calories. So it's one of those things where it's satisfying. It's like ice cream. You know, I think it's one of those things.
I'm going to really, make a profound point here. Literally, since I discovered zero-fat Greek yogurt, I don't think I've had any ice cream. I can't think of any ice cream I've had in 3 or 4 months. I mean, I may have done, I just can't remember it. But, I mean, it's just extraordinary. And ice cream's got so much sugar in it. I mean, I have an ice cream at night, and if I go to sleep and wake up the next morning, I've got like a sugar hangover. Like I can taste the sugar. I can eat 450 grams, like a 450-gram tub of Greek yogurt. And I feel like I'm being gluttonous because it's such a big tub. Like 450 grams is a lot, right? Yeah. And at the end of it, I don't feel heavy. I don't feel anything. I go to sleep just fine. I wake up in the morning and I feel absolutely fine. Yeah, like it's extraordinary. I don't understand why more people aren't talking about this. There were a couple things that you said there which I thought was interesting. The reason why I think I leaned up so much in that, let's say it was 3 or 4 weeks where I was practicing what you were preaching in these voice notes in the WhatsApp that you were sending me, was because I had that accountability. You were essentially my accountability partner without me naming you my accountability partner. The fact that I was asking you questions and you were kind enough to send me voice notes back, it was a form of accountability, right? And so I was like, okay, great. And then I took pride in giving you progress reports. You might recall I was walking down and said, hey man, I was in this, I went into a Barry's boot camp kind of treadmill session, which is like a group exercise class. And when you're running on the treadmill, they've got these mirrors so you can see yourself. And I remember I was doing the sprint part of it, and my shirt kind of like, went up. And I got a glimpse and I went, oh my God, I think I just saw abs. And I kind of lifted up my shirt as I was sprinting and I was like, wow, I've only been doing this Greek yogurt thing and tracking my calories and not going over 2,250 calories a day for 2 weeks. And all of a sudden I'm seeing like an ab or two coming through. I was like, wow, this is working. So the accountability part was huge for me. And then to your point as well, just knowledge, right? Like Ty Lopez says knowledge, in a very famous YouTube video. But the knowledge of the formula that you said, which was 13 times your goal weight, right? So you take the number 13, you multiply it by the weight you want to be. That gives you a number, which is the amount of calories you don't want to go over each day, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even that knowledge, and then downloading MyFitnessPal and actually then tracking the food that I was eating and making a note of it each day so I could effectively count the calories. Then actually going to the gym and tracking that I was getting 12,500 steps, which is easy around London. It's very flat. There's lots of, 49% of London is parkland. I would go into parks and walk around. Really got me the results. So there's something, it's a proven formula, right?
Well, I think one of the things is that awareness. Once you start putting the food into an app and understanding the calories and understanding what you're ingesting, you start to become really aware of it. Like just 2 teaspoons of olive oil, really stacks up and takes away from being in a caloric deficit to being in a surplus. And so there's so many snacks out there. I think a lot of people just do not understand what they're ingesting. They're just eating this and that. And so that awareness, once I started tracking that, like I will not eat it until I've actually measured it out. So even in fact, I have some Greek yogurt here.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. 175 grams, half a banana. There's some fiber, there's some cinnamon, and I know exactly what I'm ingesting. And so just that act of tracking it creates that awareness. And then knowing that if you just stick to that plan and be consistent with that, have some accountability, the results are going to come. But it's that consistency and it's that discipline, and it's just being consistent.
Let's do a little fun game here. I'll give you an example. Instead of eating ice cream, eat 0% Greek yogurt, right? So what are a couple of common things that people eat? So instead of eating...
So something like unhealthy?
Yeah, something unhealthy. Yeah. Which people might think mistakenly is kind of healthy.
Right.
Instead of that, eat this instead.
So instead of having some sort of like a lot of potatoes or something with a lot of calories, have some vegetables. Have something where there's a lot of mass but not a lot of calories. And so you'll be satiated. You're thinking that you're eating a lot, but you're actually not ingesting a lot of calories. So look at that profile.
So instead of like a cup of rice and a potato, have a bucket load of vegetables.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have a plate full of vegetables, but there are not a lot of calories.
And I was doing this in London. There was a salad bar and meat bar. I guess it wasn't strictly speaking a salad bar, but it was called Crazy Salad, and it was just around the corner from Bloomsbury Square and Russell Square Tube Station in London. And I would go in there and I'd say, give me steak, like chopped up steak. And then they'd have a salad bar and I'd get to choose the salads. And I was always just going, just give me everything. And so I would go and sit at this table and I'd have my protein with like the red meat steak chopped up and an absolute huge pile of vegetables and salads. And I was realizing when I was typing all this in, it was hardly any calories. It looked like a huge meal, and it was, but it made me feel full. It made me feel like I was almost being gluttonous, but the calories were so few.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point there is also a change of relationship with food and with eating, because I think a lot of people, they'll eat, but then they'll eat to a point where they're just full and they're just, they can't eat anymore. And I think for me, it's changed. So the relationship is like I'm enjoying less food, but I'm savoring it a lot more. And I know that I might be hungry afterwards, but I'm savoring that there's just less portions. right? So that relationship with food, not eating until you're full, but really thinking when you eat it, ingesting those nutrients, feeling your body, ingesting them, and using all your senses to really appreciate that food. I think for me, when I do intermittent fasting, like extended fasting, like 3 days, I try to do that every 3 months. When I have that first meal, it's just like the taste and the flavors, and I appreciate just the food a lot more. So the relationship with the food definitely changes as well.
One of the things I referenced at the beginning of the show was that you're a great connector of people who have good energy. And one of the things that you've created recently is this Sunday breakfast that I like to attend, where you bring together some really good people, and we meet at 9:30 in the morning every Sunday at a restaurant here in Medellin called Treat. Yeah. And so far I think it's only been men so far. I don't think we've had a woman present at the moment. It's kind of just started off as more like a men's breakfast than a co-ed breakfast, hasn't it? I don't think that's been...
we have. I mean, there's been different days, but definitely it's a different energy.
Yes.
When it's all men.
Yeah. And so what was your thinking behind creating that in the first place? And just, if you will, for our listener, just describe what goes on at one of those breakfasts.
Yeah, so the idea there was, okay, if I'm not going out at night, if that's being cut out, I've got to maximize my days. I've got to design my lifestyle to a point where I'm doing the things that I love to do, and I'm taking advantage of those days. And so by doing it at 9:30 on Sundays, it really attracted a different crowd, attracted the conscious people that probably didn't go out last night, and they're there, they're conscious, they're very intentional. And it was just one of those things where I have to design my lifestyle to take advantage of the days instead of doing those late dinners. I shifted that towards the mornings, and it's been phenomenal. The conversations we have, discussions, the energy, just the ambience and the people around, it's a whole different energy than being at night and being in the default of drinking and doing this and just kind of wasting time. So it's been this morning, this ritual that's just been incredible.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? When you have a Sunday morning meeting or a Saturday morning get-together, it does attract a very different type of person, because I've noticed that those who have attended either don't drink at all or drink only sometimes. Like, drinking is not needed for social interaction, because who the hell is going to be up at 9:30 on a Sunday morning sitting down for a breakfast having a high vibration type of conversation? And so for you, the listener who might be listening to this, you might be thinking, oh, my life's going to be so boring and dull if I stop drinking alcohol. You might be feeling like you've got to stay at home, lock yourself away. You've got to avoid social situations. I submit that there are so many amazing social interactions you can create specifically on a weekend morning for a breakfast or a brunch, which will attract, in my opinion, a higher, maybe not a higher caliber of person, that's probably the wrong way of saying it, but let's just say someone who's health conscious, mindset conscious, good energy, maybe more so than someone who's going out and drinking either to numb themselves or to party or to whatever, who needs that drinking on a Friday or a Saturday night. And certainly my experience has been that the depth of conversation, the vulnerability that a lot of the men have displayed in opening up. I mean, we're not talking about how much money we're making in our business. We're not talking about trivial things. We're not we're going deep, right? Like, what are some of the comments, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going deep. We're there on reason, on intention, and the conversations can range. It's there's a lot of talk that I like to talk about, like the conscious congruency and this frequency and this vibration, and just when we're in those environments where we want to be in, then that frequency raises, that alignment. You have that conscious congruency on you're doing what you want to do. So as a result, your frequency rises, your vibration rises, and I'm in a better state. So I'm attracting different people. We're having different conversations, and it's just designing that life to understand, okay, where am I vibing the highest, putting myself in those situations, And then when you have multiple people like that are in that environment, the conversations will just take off because people are in great states, they're vibing, and things are just flowing. So it's definitely a phenomenal Sunday. Afterwards, I think a lot of people are just shocked on how incredible it was. And it kickstarts a day, and we have the whole day ahead of us. And so it's definitely something I enjoy doing as much as possible.
What have you called the group?
Well, we started with the Big Thinker Brunch, but now it's called the Big Brain Brunch. I think people have taken different terms, but I think, having a label, having a term behind it has been great as well, and people are loving it. So
the Big Brain Brunch.
Big Brain Brunch.
I like it. Well, the only time that I don't show up is when my favorite English Premier League soccer team, Tottenham Hotspur, is playing at the same time. That I won't give up. I decided a very long time ago that watching Tottenham Hotspur, which is my English Premier League team that I support, gives me immense joy. I experience all the emotions of joy, anger, frustration, sadness, euphoria, despair. And I said to myself, what the gods wouldn't give to be able to feel, like the gods can't feel anything, they're immortal. But we get to feel because we're mortal. And so I just decided, 2 hours on a Sunday or a Saturday morning watching my team, I get to experience the full range of emotions. So that's something I'm not going to compromise on.
Well, and I think that's your consciousness talking to you and you being congruent with that, right? So I think that's so important to be in alignment with that. If your consciousness is telling you to do something and you don't act within that, your frequency drops, your vibration drops, and you're just not in that state where you want to be. So for you, being in that state, being in that environment, all those emotions, that's just that congruency. And I think the more that we can be in alignment with that, that's just so powerful. So I try as much as possible to listen to that consciousness, that intuition, act within that. And those moments when I'm in that alignment, vibration is high and I'm just attracting all this amazing stuff around me. So yeah.
2 last questions. Number 1 is, have you got 3 amazing books that you might recommend? Books that have had a profound impact on you and how you live your life.
I would say a few of them. I mean, Psycho-Cybernetics, incredible book. The One Thing. By Gary Keller. And I mean, the 4-Hour Work Week as well hit home when I was doing the corporate stuff. And when I went out by Tim Ferriss, I think that's shifted my mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, The One Thing by Gary Keller, and
Psycho-Cybernetics.
Who's that by? Do you know?
Maxwell.
Okay. And what's that book about?
That. It's all self-identity. Where's the identity? And that's a self-limiter. What is our self-image? We're going to act in congruence with the image that we have on ourselves. So it's about creating that identity, that future identity, that whatever you want to create, living up to that. And that governs everything in our life, our health, finances, everything. So definitely that's a foundational book.
And each morning when you wake up at 4:45 and you do your morning practice, you're exercising and you start your day, is there one energy that you're trying to embody? Is there one word? Is there one statement? Is there one mission? Is there something that drives you on to be the best version that you can, to be the best version of yourself?
I mean, I'm saying wake up and let's go. Like, there is no point sitting, sleeping in bed, hitting that snooze button. Like, life is now. Having that cancer and having that awareness of like, hey, this is not going to last on forever. So wake up, let's go, get at it, have inspiring goals, make the most of every single moment, every single day, push yourself, and keep just being in that flow, listening to that intuition.
Where can our listener follow you on Instagram and watch you getting up at 4:45 in the morning doing your burpees? Yeah,
Instagram, M Carels.
Spell it out for us, yeah.
So M as in Mike, Carels. That's the Instagram.
So it's spelled Mike Carels, pronounced Mike Carels, yeah?
Yeah.
Carels.
That's it.
Okay, yeah. Follow Mike. He's really inspired me to lean up. He introduced me to the world of zero-fat Greek yogurt, and really produces a wonderful Sunday morning for me when Tottenham aren't playing, of course, at our big brain brunches. Mike, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks so much for sharing your story with us and for guiding our listener through weight loss, through waking up and getting going for the day, through creating energy, through having a powerful mindset. I've certainly appreciated getting to know you increasingly since we've been living together just, only up the road really here in Medellin, Colombia. And so, thank you so much again on behalf of our listeners.
I've had a blast, James. It's incredible. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And wake up, let's go.
Wake up, let's go. Yeah. To you, the listener, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.